In this video, I will show you how you can run the Cinnamon desktop environment in a Docker container on Windows. The Cinnamon desktop is lightweight, it's fast, and that's why it's perfect for a Docker container. And it also looks very modern, and personally I cannot say the same thing for LXQT and XFCE, which are also very lightweight but look more outdated. This is not the first time that I'm running a full desktop environment inside a Docker container on Windows. In a previous video, I showed you how you can run the Ubuntu desktop, the LXQT version of Ubuntu. So if you're interested how to run Ubuntu inside a Docker container and display it on Windows, then you can check out my previous video. The link to the video is up there or down in the description. In this video, I will show you two versions of the Cinnamon desktop. The first one will be the Debian version and the second one will be the Cinnamon flavor of Ubuntu, which is more stylish. As always, I will first show you the Docker files, then we will build the images from scratch, and afterwards we will run those. But before we start, welcome to the channel. Here you can find topics about Linux, Docker, game dev, or software development in general, or short, agile dev art. If you like that kind of content, then give a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified when I release new videos. All the links and Docker files from this video are down in the description, and also down there are the timestamps, so you can skip any part if you want. My Docker desktop is already running. Let's see the Docker file, dockerfile.cinnamon. As the base image I used Ubuntu 23.04, but if you want you can also use the LTS version 22.04. Then I'm installing the Cinnamon desktop version. Here we have three versions. We have the default Debian Cinnamon desktop, which is very basic and very lightweight. It has only a few applications installed by default. Then we have basically the same thing, but with a lot more applications installed by default. So this one will take up a lot more space. And then we have the official Ubuntu Cinnamon flavor. This one is more stylish. We will see how it looks like. First we will go with the basic Debian version. So let's remove the comments. I'm installing a few packages, XRDP and Tiger VNC Server, so you will be able to connect to the container using RDP, Remote Desktop Connection, or VNC, or even both at the same time. I will show you how it works in this video. Then I'm adding a user by the name test user, and I'm giving it a strong password 1234. I'm configuring the user and I'm adding it to the sudo group. Then I'm setting a few environment variables that we need for the Cinnamon desktop, otherwise the desktop will not work. I'm writing those as a bash script file. Then I'm creating a second script where I use these environment variables and where I'm also starting the Cinnamon desktop session. Then I'm configuring the VNC server to use the same password as the user. And I'm copying the previous script to where XRDP and VNC can find it and execute it. XRDP will run as a service, but the VNC server we need to start manually with this script right here that I'm also writing to a file and giving it the execute permission. Then I'm exposing the port 3389, which is the default RDP port, and 5902, which will be the VNC port. And finally I'm starting dbus, systemd login, XRDP, and VNC. In addition, I'm also starting the bash shell just so the container stays in the loop. And that's it. Let's build this one. First save it, then go to terminal, new terminal, make sure you're in the right folder, and write docker build -f, the name of the Docker file, -t, the name of the image, I called it docker-cinnamon, and a dot for the current folder. Let's build it. Perfect. Here is the image, it has 1.79 gigabytes. So this is the default Debian Cinnamon desktop. Let's run it, and let's map the ports, 3389. And 5902. Here we are mapping the container ports to the localhost ports, so we can connect to the container through localhost and run. Container is running. Let's connect to it using RDP first. Remote desktop connection, localhost, and connect. We trust. This is the default XRDP login screen. Let's log in. Test user and the password. And here it is, Cinnamon desktop running inside a Docker container. Let's see what we have. So there is not much installed by default. You have only the basic stuff. Let's open the file explorer. The icons are very basic. Let's see the terminal. And let's install NeoFetch. Let's see NeoFetch. As you can see, this one is running the WSL kernel version 5.10, which is expected since this is running on Windows. And you can also see that this one uses about 1.7 gigabytes of RAM, which is a bit less than other desktop environments. Since we are connected to the container using RDP, we can close the session, disconnect, and if we connect again and log in, we will get the session as we left it. Let's try the same thing using VNC. I'm using the tight VNC client. Localhost 5902 is the port, and connect. And the password. Let's log in again. I'm logged in as the same user, but in a different Cinnamon session. Let's open system settings here. And now, if I compare those two, on the right we have the XRDP session, and on the left we have the VNC session. So although I'm logged in with the same user, I have different Cinnamon sessions for VNC and RDP. Now we saw that this Cinnamon desktop version has only a few applications installed by default. If you want other applications, then you would need to install those by hand. Or you can check out the next Cinnamon desktop. Let's close those and stop the container. Back to the Docker file. Let's comment out the Cinnamon version we just tested. And let's try the second one. Remove comments, save the file, and again, let's build the image. I will call the image docker-cinnamon-all, because this one will have all applications pre-installed. Let's build this one. Perfect. Here is the image, and as you can see, this one has 4.26 gigabytes. So a lot more than the previous one. Let's run it. Again, map the port and run. Container is running. Let's connect to it. Remote desktop connection, localhost, and connect. We trust. Log in. We are inside the container. As you can see, this one looks as the first one, but if we check applications, then we have a lot more here. For instance, we have LibreOffice. Let's try it out. Works as it should. What else do we have? I'm surprised how many games we have. Let's try Nibbles. Okay, I'm the red worm. Man, I'm so bad. Alright. Let's try out VNC. Type VNC, localhost and port, and connect. Password. Again, we are now logged in as the same user, but in a different Cinnamon session. Now this is all nice, but the desktop itself still looks very basic. So let's try out the official Ubuntu Cinnamon flavor. Let's close that. Stop the container. And back to the Docker file. Here let's comment out the second version and let's bring in the Ubuntu Cinnamon flavor. Save the file and again let's build it. I will call this one docker-cinnamon-ubuntu and build. Perfect. Here is the image and this one has 3.5 gigabytes. So it obviously has applications installed by default. Let's run it and map the ports. Container is running, let's connect to it. Remote desktop connection, localhost, and connect. Log in. And look at that. The official Ubuntu Cinnamon flavor running inside a Docker container. And this one looks very stylish. Has also a lot of pre-installed applications. Let's see the file explorer. I have to say this orange tone looks surprisingly good. At least with this dark theme here. Let's try NeoFetch. Again, we are running the same WSL kernel. The theme is Yaru Cinnamon Dark. And I really like this theming, I have to admit. And we are using 2.2 gigabytes of RAM. About 500 megabytes more than the default Cinnamon. Let's see what else we have. Only 4 games. But we have GIMP by default. That's a surprise actually. Let's try it out. Here is GIMP. Let's make art. Maybe that's just my feeling, but this Cinnamon session seems more stable than the GNOME session when running inside a Docker container. Or maybe that's just my impression. Let's try out VNC, localhost and connect. Password and log in. And again we have a new Cinnamon session and the same user is logged in. Now if we try to compare performance between VNC on the left and RDP on the right, if I move the window, this is RDP and this is VNC. Much smoother. I made a full performance comparison between VNC and RDP in a previous video, so if you're interested, the link to the video is up there or down in the description. If you like the videos I make and also want to support me, I also have a Patreon page. I really appreciate all the support I get, and it's because of your support that I can make videos like this one. So thank you very much, and the link to Patreon is up there or down in the description. The Ubuntu Cinnamon desktop looks nice and spicy. It's also very fast and responsive. But if you're running it inside a container or on an embedded device, then maybe you don't need a full desktop at all. Maybe it is enough just to run a simple window manager that consumes a lot less resources. In a previous video, I showed you how to run the Weston Compositor inside a Docker container, which is perfect for such use cases. It is very lightweight, very simple, and also surprisingly customizable. It can even run the full Ubuntu GNOME shell on it. So if you're interested how to run the Weston Compositor inside a Docker container, then you can check out my previous video. The link to the video is up there or down in the description. And that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, if you like my content, if you think it's helpful, then please give a like, subscribe. And if you really like the video, you also have a super thanks down there where you can buy me a coffee, for instance, so I can make more of those awesome videos. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.